Oh yeah, and you let us. Me and these Earthers, we're gonna talk about the Expanse, and we're gonna remind you Earthers again and again and again, you don't belong in the belt, Sasa. I just wanted to slap her so bad.
Very nice.
Anyway, welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's discussion on the Expanse, Season 5, Episode 5. What was this called again? Oh, Down and Out.
Down and Out.
Yep. And I'm joined here, of course, my regular co-host in these discussions, Darrin from D's Reviews. Thanks so much for joining, Darrin.
Oh, always a pleasure to be here, Mark. Really excited. Another just really exciting episode today. I can't wait to get into things.
And dressed up really snazzily for New Year's Eve, it's Alyssa. Alyssa, thanks for joining.
Yeah, I am mostly dressed up for you guys because I'm not really going anywhere, but I just wanted to dress up. But Happy New Year, and it's so great to be here on the last day of 2020. It's almost over. And what better way to spend it than talking about the latest episode of The Expanse? So look forward to it.
Well, I know for Cardinal Doomsday in the chat, 2020 is over for him because in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
But not too long to the new year.
Cardinal Doomsday, did everything just magically get better? A 1201 that COVID just disappeared.
He says it looks really cool. So, all right. So far, 2021 is looking all right, everyone. We can take a breath.
All right. So after that complete head rush and mind fuck of an episode we got last week, this week is more sort of a follow-up, cleaning up the aftermath, which I think was absolutely needed. So quick to get your guys' opinions on what you thought on this episode. Alyssa, we'll start with you. What were your impressions on this episode?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the follow-up to last week's really, really great episode. I kind of wish it was my turn last week to talk with you guys because that was... I'd have to go back and rewatch some of those mid-season 2 episodes, but off the top of my head, it's one of the best of the series. That was just an amazing episode. Speaking of episode 4, so episode 5 was, kind of what you expected, sort of picking up the pieces after it. It was pretty good, for what it was. I had a couple of complaints about it, which I'll get to as we talk.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I wanted to my initial knee-jerk reaction was to feel let down after episode 4, but I logic and reasoned through it that it's supposed to. This is what it's supposed to be. It's not going to be another episode like episode 4. So for what it was, the purpose of it actually did a really good job. And I especially was really interested in seeing the follow-up to Amos because they kind of just left him hanging in the middle of the episode last week. You see the ceiling started crumbling down and leaving Darrin open for some theories about how he's going to have to go defeat the boss and go up to each level one by one. But so I was especially really into that storyline. But overall, it was good. It was good for what it needed to do.
Yeah, that's funny because I actually had a similar reaction to the episode where I was initially disappointed, but then I had to remind myself. But for me, it was partly because I read the books and I sort of knew what was coming, and I was sort of hoping they'd get further along in the story than they did. But the Amos stuff is what I think really drove this episode. But anyway, Darrin, your thoughts on this episode?
I do have to admit that I am a bit disappointed that I did not have a Kung Fu Master style climb the tower to the boss fight at the end. So there was technically a boss fight at the end.
Yeah, I was going to correct you there.
Right. So, I mean, it wasn't without its little bits. And yes, whenever you have such a great episode like we had with 4 and so many things afterwards, almost anything on the follow-up is going to be disappointing because only in the sense that you're not going to be able to tie that level of action. You're going to have the breath before the next thing. And to me, that's really what this felt like. This was the breath before the next thing. And I think even Sakai talks about or hints at there are so many more things coming this way. So, in that sense, yeah, I was fine with it being a little bit. I was actually really focused a lot on the writing and the performances in this. There were some really nice performances. There was some great, just direct writing. There's some great character bit, again, especially with Amos, who I love to death, throughout this. So yeah, it wasn't a hoorah episode. It certainly left us with a nice little cliffhanger, that's for sure. But I think it really is. It's that requisite kind of breath before we dive back into, obviously, from the end of the episode here, the little cliffhanger. It's going to be a tense next episode.
Cool. And just want to say hello to those in the chat. We got Colonel Doomsday, Alexandra, and Mike DiCarlo. Thanks so much for joining. And Mike, to answer your question, the stream, once it's finished, will be on my channel. You can get to it and watch it even after it's recorded by using the same link you got to get here. So, it goes up in the archives. So if you're too busy, you want to celebrate New Year's right now, you can always come back and check it out later once we're done. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this episode. In particular, let's start with a storyline. I was just talking before we went on air about how I forgot the storyline existed. I almost skipped over it and going through what we're going to talk about. So let's just get it out of the way. The drummer storyline, because nothing really happened in this episode. I mean, we did get more of her regret over her letting Marco go. And this is something like, this is one, and there were several things which I might get into in this video, but there were several things in season 4 where I had to keep my lips sealed. And I remember when we were having a discussion about when drummer let Marco go, and we're discussing, was it the right thing to do or what is not? And I knew it absolutely wasn't, because I knew what was coming. I knew what Marco was going to do, and I knew that she would regret it greatly not doing it. So I think she kind of deserves to be in this guild personally. But it's really affecting her and her group. And it was interesting to see the Belters' perspective, how they're different Belters who don't necessarily agree with Marco, and they think it's tragic, and they kind of think it was recognize that it was a genocide, but at the same time they can kind of see a little bit that they were being oppressed, and this is kind of sending their oppressors a message. So they seem kind of mixed on it. But I do love Drummer's response to one of her crews saying that Fred Johnson was a good man for an Erter, and she was like, no, he was a good man, period. And I like that, because that makes it, because we saw Drummer in last season punch Fred Johnson in the face and rage quit, but it's good to see that she still regrets his death, and that it actually hit her really, really hard. So in fact, this was actually, I'm kind of talking myself out of that. This scene was actually worthwhile. but still, anyway, so get some thoughts on the drummer stuff. I guess Darrin, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, actually, I like this as kind of an opening bit, almost because you did kind of get a spread of Belter reaction within the crew. And none of it was really severe. You don't have any herders like, yeah, down with the earthers and stuff like that. But you did get like that good middle of the road range. And so as we go throughout the rest of the episode and we get the more extreme reactions to what has happened, it kind of fleshes things out, I think, really nice. So I think this set the stage really well for that. As for Drummer's regret, yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting story and an interesting reaction. And I think it's good to see the evolution of her character, because I remember when she did let Marco go, we had a really big discussion about was it the right thing to do and so on. And, understand the kind of politics of the era and what's going on. How's it going to work with the rest of the Belter community? It was a tough call. And obviously this has its resorts, but I love it because it really focuses Drummer, I think, really nicely. When you say that her response with Fred Johnson is, no, he was a good man, period. She is showing the experience of a real warrior, of someone who has seen a scope of things and understands that the Earth, the Belt, Mars, these particular factions, they don't mean as much as the larger overarching humanity of who people are. And so I love seeing that kind of evolution of her character. I'm also firmly convinced that she's going to beat Marco so she can shoot him in the face. I really do. I think, hopefully this will give Naomi a way out, because she's in kind of a tough position. But yeah, my whole feeling on her with we're going to go see Marco is, she's going to go kill him and end this for now. What about you, Alyssa? What do you think?
I hope you're right about that, because, or I hope that this storyline is leading somewhere. I assume that it must be, because I just find myself questioning why. Why do we need this one little scene? Why do we need this storyline at all right now? Especially considering what you said, Mark, about how they gave her the storyline of a book character who they've cut out, and how it was kind of out of place for her, and that how in the book she was where Bull is. And yes. I'm thinking, why would she not? I think it would be better if she were there, because she would be more in the. I feel like she's so detached from the action, it's completely irrelevant. Anytime her scene comes up, it's just why do I care about this? So I just feel like it would be, I would rather her be in the midst of the action, rather her be at Tycho Station right now. This just seems so detached and irrelevant. But I assume they're heading somewhere with it, and it'll all make sense, and that they'll do something with this. But right now, every time one of our scenes come up, I'm like, all right, let's get to something that matters. This doesn't seem to matter at all, other than showing, her reaction to having been, the one who let Marco go. But we could also get that if she were on Tycho Station. So I don't know. So I question the way that they're approaching Drummer this season. I want more Drummer. I really like this character. I just think she's being misused so far this season. But we'll see. We'll see where they take her. I assume somewhere good. Hopefully she is going to try to go kill Marco, and that could get interesting.
Shoot him in the face, specifically. I think shoot him in the face.
I want to say some extremely, extremely mild book spoilers. So I don't think it's that big of a spoiler. I've been debating whether or not I should mention, but I don't think it is really. But so if you're really sensitive, maybe tune out for a couple minutes. But the character that Drummer's taken over actually didn't appear until book 6, and then they're showing her stuff now where this stuff took place with a different character in book 6. So it does make me curious where the show's going with this, and why they're introducing this storyline so much sooner. I guess because they need to have Drummer in the season, and they've already decided to have Drummer take the place of this character, I guess. So I don't know. We'll see if they actually make her storyline important this year. But yeah, I'm kind of the same way, where whenever I'm sure, because as I said, it was interesting seeing her reaction, especially to Fred Johnson's death. But her storyline overall, I kind of agree with Alyssa that maybe she should be back on Tycho. But I guess they're sort of building, for the future. But yeah.
Yeah, it does sort of put her in an odd place. She does feel very much, and I felt that at the very beginning, what is she doing out here with the crew? Yeah, she ran away, and is she a pirate, or is she a cop, or what is she doing out here? So yeah, I think she does feel kind of like she's floating out in space.
So Alyssa, you weren't a fan of this scene pretty much. Is this one of the complaints you had about the episode?
Yeah, I think I said that off air. I don't know if I said. Did I say that on the air? Did I have a couple complaints?
I thought you did. I thought
okay, maybe I did. Maybe I said it both times. Yeah. Minor complaints. Those one is just this scene in general, or this storyline in general. Why is it here?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that it's definitely building to something. It is going to justify itself eventually, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
when
but I will always look back and say, could they have still built to the same thing while having her and Tycho and more involved earlier in the season? That's what I will be looking at once the season is said and done.
Fair enough.
Yeah, well, it is one of those that usually at the end of the season, it's easier to track where everything is going. And right now, not quite the same, but I kind of have faith with the writers. They're going to take us to good places. They don't often disappoint. So
you got faith in the heart, Darrin. Going where your heart will take you. Sorry, wrong show.
Bark. Don't do that.
Anyway, let's go ahead and move over to the meat of the episode, the Amos storyline that we talked about in our previous discussion last week about how they showed the big guy and with his mods lifting weights, and they said, "Oh, this is such and such," and he still have his mods in. Of course, they're not going to not going to have that scene in for the hell of it and never see that character again. And here we got to see him play out. I can't remember his actual name. I just call him Tiny, like Amos does. And
Konachek, I think is.
Oh, okay. I was calling him Chekhov's prisoner.
Chekhov's prisoner.
From last week's episode, he was Chekhov's prisoner.
The actor's a Canadian comedian named Boomer Phillips. I think he did an amazing job.
Oh, really? Yeah. He's a big man. Like Wes Chatham, who plays Amos, was saying, like when he saw it, he's like, who could possibly take Amos on? And we saw him. He's like, okay, I get it now. But then said that the actor was like the nicest, like sweetest man you could possibly know. But I think he did a pretty effective job of playing. Like you could see from the very beginning that he couldn't be trusted and that he wasn't going to play straight. And that time where the guy fell off the ladder, he was like, oh, he fell by himself. Like no one believed that. He definitely killed him. But again, I guess they were two once they climbed the ladder and they got up and they saw the devastation, which I'm a bit disappointed they didn't have a budget to do a much wider shot to show like the entire. I think this was a budget saving moment personally, because I would have liked to see the whole landscape, but they just showed the couple buildings nearby. But whatever. But everyone was too in awe of seeing the devastation, and they got a bit too distracted by that, which is understandable. But they turned their backs on Tiny there, who promptly killed the other guard and almost killed Amos. It was really interesting because almost throughout the entire Expanse, like Amos is always the biggest badass, and whenever anyone challenges him, you're like, oh, Mercury, whatever, you get your ass kicked. Like, but this time he was outmatched, and so that was very interesting to see that. But then, of course, the other guard came and saved him, and he did that suplex and knocked him out, threw him down. So it was pretty badass. These scenes were sort of interesting, sort of in the badass escape from prison type way, but there wasn't like in the grand scheme of things. It's more of, I guess, just. It doesn't make that big of a deal, but does advance Amos's personal story. So Alyssa, I guess we'll start with you this time. What did you think of the Amos stuff?
Yeah, I loved it. It was good to see the follow-up, as I said, since we were left kind of on a cliffhanger. And as far as Amos's, being overmatched by somebody for the first time. But it did show that he not only has brawn, but he does have the brains, because he was quick to think on his feet, like it's to pivot and do that suplex and throw the guy into the down into the abyss there. Now, thankfully, it's not Star Wars. If it was Star Wars, he'd totally still be alive, because falling into big holes in the Star Wars universe doesn't mean anything. But in the Expanse, I assume that he is dead. But it's funny. You said in your review too that you thought of this as like an escape from prison thing. I was thinking of it more like a disaster movie type thing. In fact, specifically Star Trek episodes, like the Star Trek episode in Next Generation called "The Disaster." Like it kind of reminded me of that kind of thing where there's been a disaster and people who don't normally work together are forced to work together, and there almost always usually is, in this type of trope, somebody who is bad, but you can't quite trust them, but you have to trust them, sort of thing. And but not to say that makes it not good. I enjoyed it every bit, and I was confused though, and you pointed this out in your review, Mark, as well. Why Clarissa bit down on her mod and then didn't do anything. Like I thought I was 100. I saw her bite down. I was like, oh, it's going to happen now. She's going to save Amos. But then nothing happened. Instead, the guard shot the dude and then Amos threw the dude. So what do you think? Yeah, go ahead and answer, Mark.
I got several comments on the video after I mentioned that, and they came up with several possibilities. One, and I think this is the most likely possibility, is that the blockers were still blocking her. That it's when she bit down on it, she just slumped to the floor, and because the blockers were still preventing her and weakening her, and so it didn't really. It was like a wah wah wah, where it sort of did nothing. The other possibility is that I heard is that she's kind of like a drug addict, and she's getting it fixed after so many years, and she was sort of just like transfixed on it, and sort of enjoying the pretty colors. But I'm more in line to go in with that first interpretation.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. I'm just wondering, story wise, like why did they have to show that, or they were just trying to communicate to us that the mods still aren't working? Was that the point of that?
Well, also that she was going to try to stop him, that she wasn't just going to sit by and let Amos die.
Yeah, to me, that's sort of where I saw, because she had mentioned early on, it's when Amos first asked, like, can you use your mods? And she's like, no, I'm still doped up. It wouldn't work if I tried, and if it did, it wouldn't be a pretty sight. She mentioned something along the lines that this wouldn't work. So at the end, to me, she sees Amos is in trouble, so she's going to try and do. To me, that's a sign of her character evolution there, that she's willing to take that risk. And of course, it doesn't work. So she's just kind of there in convulsions, like with the interaction between her mods and the drugs, kind of throwing her off. So that's sort of how I had seen it happening.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just, when she did that, I was like, I thought she was gonna just bum rush the guy and like kick some ass, but then nothing happened.
See, my thought is that the guy would be able to take her even with her mods, because he has mods too, and he's not as doped up.
Right, but he could have, or she could have, distracted him enough for Amos then to do his suplex, because Amos still got to end up doing the suplex and throwing the guy down the very, very deep hole.
Yeah.
Well, he kicked him in the nads first, and then did.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did kick him in the nads first. Well, yeah, she could have distracted him, and then he would have kicked him in the nads.
Useful against people even with mods.
Yeah.
To kick in the nads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Darrin, you want to give your thoughts on this?
Sure. In some ways, I was really looking forward to this particular part of the episode. In some ways, it was a little disappointing because I kind of expected more, and it was, I think, Alyssa, you hit it perfectly. It's like a disaster movie. We have to work together in order to escape from this thing. And it was very straightforward. But to me, it was a great look again at Amos and how his character's evolution. And not only that, how he talks. I focused a lot on this one. Amos doesn't waste a word. Everything he says has an exact pointed meaning. Are you okay? We need to get out of here. We're wasting time. I have people in high places. Everything that he says isn't really to adjust. It isn't overly inflated. It is very direct. And I kind of love that about this character, because even as all the guards are panicking, he's like, all right, well, we need to get in here. Let's get in that. Is there this? Let's put a bullet in here and pull these out. Okay, we're going to. I mean, everything was a very direct. Let's solve the problem, and I love that about Amos's character. And he doesn't waste any time. There's no unnecessary drama. Yeah, again, Boomer Phillips Boomer Phillips was awesome. I love when he came out and he was like, "Let me out! I have rights. I have." Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Yeah, he says, "What's new?"
Oh yeah, what's new? Yeah, I mean, just his kind of bounce back and forth. James Corey, obviously the writer, big on Twitter, so I'm connected with his feed, and he was making a comment how Amos nicknames all of these people, Tiny and so on, is that he has an instinctive hatred of alpha males and chest thumpers, and he just wants to make fun of them, which also is full on that apparently that's the writer's DNA kind of coming through Amos. But it does how immediately, even with Clarissa, he calls her Peaches, which, I mean, Clarissa is kind of a psychotic, modded killer, and that undercuts. Yeah, exactly. It makes her all cute and good. And now it becomes almost a term of endearment. Tiny the same way. It's just, I'm just undercutting, and it's a great character bit. I love that kind of insight from the writer. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to interject about the nicknames because, Mark, you made such a great point in your review about how he was like Sawyer from Lost. How he does the exact same thing and always has to give people nicknames like that. And I thought about that, like, even more than just the fact that he gives nicknames. Both characters are like the lovable convict, like the evil villain with the heart of gold. Like there's a lot of those two characters actually have a lot in common. But I love that you said that because I hadn't thought of that before. But yeah, he's a lot like Sawyer with all of his nicknames.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me until this episode. I'm like, wow, well, how could I not notice this before?
Yeah.
Apparently, there was a lot more blood at the bottom of the elevator shaft when was it Murphy when the guard fell? They had to CGI some of it out because I guess it was a little too much looking.
Even for Amazon? Okay, I thought Amazon was okay.
Again, these are just insights from the writers. It's amazing what you can learn from people on Twitter. Actually, and if you guys want to, James S.A. Corey, he is awesome on Twitter. If you guys are on, the Expanse writers also tweet a bunch of stuff out.
Just to clarify, James S.A. Corey is actually two people.
Yes.
It's the pen name for Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham. And also sort of pumping them, Ty Frank, one of the authors who works on the show, one that produces the show, one of the authors of the book, does a after show with Wes Chatham, who plays Amos. And so they do one every week. So I watch that as well. That's very informative too.
Ooh, I should go double check that out. I've heard that they have, but I haven't seen any of that, which was cool. And yeah, ultimately just an awesome kill. The reverse suplex and throwing them down the shaft. It was just quick and brutal. Even watching it, it was like tension and then just and the sound of him hitting the sides, I think, just added to it. The bounce was just it was a beautiful bit. And I was a little bit. I was like, okay, wait a minute. What happened to the building? Shouldn't there be more destruction? Shouldn't there be rubble? How is it all clear at the top? So
I have a question too.
Yeah, sure.
What about the other prisoners down there? They're just gonna be left down there.
Nah.
Yeah, there's nobody cares about them.
They're just gonna
like
whatever.
The guard's whole plan was to be like, well, fuck the prisoners. They're gonna stay there. But Amos forced them to take Clarissa with them, and they needed Tiny in order to help them.
But now that they know there's nothing else up there,
there's a ladder.
They don't give a shit.
Those prisoners are like 100% gonna die. Like,
nobody cares about.
They'll maybe send some people back, or I'm sure again the mods will wear off. They'll bust out. There's a ladder. They'll climb. New crime spree. It happens.
Anyway, gotta say hello to Rob, Smirking Gun Review, in the chat. Thanks so much for joining. Smirking Gun Reviews, he does his own reviews of the Expanse on his channel, and I recommend checking those out as well. Quality reviews as well. So thanks for dropping by. So all right, so Alyssa, there's one thing I wanted to ask you about because you weren't here last week, and the whole thing about Clarissa Mal being included in the storyline again, because my first thought is that, oh, you're gonna hate this because apparently like you really didn't like this character in season 3, and when she had her brief cameo in season 4 you complained about that as well. It's like, oh, why the hell is she appearing again? Of course I knew as a book reader why they included that scene, because it was to set up for this scene, for the storyline in season 5, to establish that her and Amos had a connection. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, my complaint about that scene was it seemed like completely out of nowhere. Like, what does this have to do with anything? I didn't realize I would have to wait until season 5 to see why they had that scene. And I still maintain that if you're going to have that scene, it needs to be relevant for the season that it's in. So it wasn't that I hated the character as much as I just felt that scene was out of nowhere. Now I don't know. I watched you guys last week, and Don did not mince words about this character, and I don't know that I feel as strongly against this character as Don does. Maybe I did, like in season 3, but I forgot about that. That was like 2 years ago. I'm over it.
Well, I think Don's complaints about the character I feel is more in universe, is more like, oh, this is a horrible person, fuck her. Where I felt like your complaints were more of, oh, this is bad writing, they're not writing.
Yeah, and I did feel that way in season 3, but that doesn't mean that like I never have to see that character ever again. As long if they are able to incorporate that character into good writing, into a good storyline, then I'm all on board. And so far, I really love the reflection of the Amos character from interacting with this character. So I'm on board with what they're doing with her in season 5 thus far.
All right. Yeah, but I would, again, very strongly recommend anyone to read the books, particularly book 3, because I read it again and I thought, like, not only did they handle her storyline much better in the show, I thought her redemption arc was one of the best redemption arcs I've ever read in the books. In the show, it was kind of out of nowhere bullshit. I thought they personally really mishandled it. That's just my opinion, though. A lot of people just call me a snooty book reader whenever I bring that up, and I'm sorry. I really think that's the truth. And so of course I don't mind her inclusion in the storyline because she was written so well in the books, and so I sort of know her from that.
Oh, and Alyssa, Colonel Doomsday in the chat does mention that Don never minces words, which is completely true.
No,
that's why we love him.
Yeah, that's true. And I loved your reaction to him last week, Darrin. Like, Don, please stop holding back.
It's Luke fucking Skywalker. Oh wait, that was another.
No, it's the exciting back and forth that makes these discussions so exciting.
To be fair, I don't mince words either when I feel strongly about a character or a storyline. I just, in this particular case, I don't hate the character as much now. I mean, I did in season 3. You're right. I did not like this character in season 3, but I'm open to what they're doing with her in season 5.
See, now, as far as the scene in season 4 goes, like, I felt they should have. That scene was only necessary because they didn't have that scene at the end of season 3. And I guess, I mean, you can say they didn't want to be anticlimactic because it takes place after they fixed the ring gates and they just wanted to cut to a beautiful montage and end the season there, which kind of makes sense. But, you know, in the books, there was a whole sequence about, you know, the Rocinante taking Melba back to Earth. In fact, Anna had to con them, or sort of not con them, but sort of incentivize them in order to do it because Holden didn't even want to do it at first. And then Amos and Clarissa bonded on that whole journey home. But of course, that wasn't seen at the end of season 3, so they had to throw in a scene at the beginning of season 4. So, oh, remember the time on the Rosinante where we bonded, which to me isn't as good of a setup for this. But I think at the end of season 3 they thought the show was being canceled, but and so maybe they were just more worried about having a succinct ending and not like setting up for 2 seasons down the line.
Yeah, Amazon let them plan ahead a little bit more, at least.
But so yeah, that is to say, I agree that scene in season 4 was kind of out of place, but was kind of necessary because it was missing in season 3. They had to make up for it.
Okay.
Well, anyway, let's go ahead and move over to Naomi. Now, I love these scenes. I love her storyline. I think the acting here is absolutely brilliant. It is frustrating to watch, though, because seeing the way that she's treated, and it just makes me hate Philip and hate Marco even more, especially like the way Marco's perspective, the way he's talking to Philip. Oh, I know she treated you like shit and she abandoned you. I'm like, pardon me, Mr. Fuckhead, but you forced her to kill a bunch of people and then stole her son away from her when she refused to go along with you killing more people. That it's just so frustrating, but it's also interesting to get their perspective. And I really like that Sin guy, because he looks at his perspective of, oh, I still care for you, Naomi, and I care for Philip, and I still want to make friends with you, and everything's good. And then Naomi actually like calls him out on his bullshit. I'm like, no, you fucking participated in genocide, and you let Marco turn Philip into a fucking homicidal man as well. So I blame you. And so that was a really great scene. And again, we get almost another moment similar to Drummer letting Marco live. Naomi lets Marco live because she's got her knife ready to go. Of course, she's distracted and pull out of there before she could do it, but she could try again. But instead, of course, she finds out, she pieces it together that Holden's life was in danger. So she thinks that that's the priority, is to save Holden rather than killing Marco, which I definitely understand. I can't really fault her for that, but then again, the system might regret this. But one thing I'm curious is if anyone else caught on to the fact before they really mentioned that Holden's life was in danger, because the show is kind of subtle and its implications that if once the Rosinante started up, the whole ship would explode. I, of course, knew this from reading the books, but I was curious if either one of you caught on to that one.
I know that they had placed some hints through the episode, and certainly on rewatching them, I can see where they are. The difference I had is I figured the Rossi was sabotaged already. I mean, the minute they had caught Sakai, was just like, well, she's been all over the Rossi. You need to take that shit apart piece by piece. Now that they were using that particular, code in order to do it, no, I didn't suspect that until, again, they start mentioning in the episode, and because they never mention anything unless it's important.
Well, I mean, the question is, did you know for a fact when Holden was starting up the reactor in the Rosinante, did you know for a fact that once that reactor was started, the ship would blow up?
I didn't know that it would be like that particular thing, but I knew that it was a mistake to just try and jump in the ship and get out of there.
So I'll just say, actually, this was one of the minor complaints that I had about this episode, is that I feel like they could have made this a little more clear, because I had absolutely no idea until Naomi warned Holden, and I was like, how does she know that? And then when I watched your review, Mark, and then you explained it, I was like, oh, that was very subtle. Like, I did not know. So the answer is no, I didn't pick up on it at all. And that's actually a thing that I think they should have done a little better and made it a little more clear for those of us who have not read the books, because I didn't know that the ship was about to explode until Naomi told Holden, and then I had to figure out, well, how the hell did she know? I didn't catch it. But once you explained it, it makes sense.
Yeah, apparently there was another clue that I even missed, and I didn't mention in my review. Another commenter brought it up, is that in the scene earlier, when that other chick who hates me, Naomi, can't remember her name, she was talking about how they used her code to blow up those ships. Originally in house, she's going to need a refresher, and sort of that was also hinting at that they were going to use her code to destroy the Rocinante.
We would be reminding you.
Yeah.
She says right there. Yeah, I had that written down. Nice.
But I missed that myself until someone pointed that out to me. So yeah, I mean, I was curious, Alyssa, if that would be some people's reactions, because I can totally see that perspective, that that if you hadn't read the books, you didn't know it was coming, that they weren't very clear on the fact that the Rocinante, because just building this whole suspense scene where they're counting down the reactor, oh no, he's going to blow up, but a lot of people wouldn't even know that because they weren't very clear on that fact that the Rocinante, and Darrin, it sounds like you didn't even know specifically when the reactor starts, the Rocinante would just be destroyed.
No, because I mean, I think they mentioned the code once last season, the Gamma Augustin Gamma code or whatever.
Yeah, Gamma Augusta.
I think they had mentioned it once last season in kind of an in-passing type of thing. So, just from an audience, when they brought up the Augustin Gamma code or whatever, and we would be reminding you, it made me think that something was wrong. And obviously, once Philip pulled her off the bridge and was like, you'd be glad I brought you here, I saved your life, that she finally pieced together like, oh, the ship's, but again, I just figured the ship was sabotaged and she knew how it was. What the actual mechanics of that sabotage. No, I had no idea. But again, I don't remember the code.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that was the scene that you pointed to, Mark, in your review. And I was like, oh, that's what that scene meant. Because I was like, I was confused, and I thought it meant that he knew that she was trying to kill Marco with a knife, and that Marco was about to actually kill her, and he had just saved her life by taking her away. That was the only thing that I could think of, because I didn't understand what he meant by he saved her life. Like, I was completely over my head.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, who's 3014 in the chat says they also showed the Augustine Gamora memorial twice during episode 1. Yeah, those are like, who's going to notice? I didn't even notice that until I saw screenshots online. Like, I'm not going to pick up on those slight, like, background sort of Easter eggs, I guess you call them. And yeah.
Yeah, I think there's one thing about like leaving hints and small storylines, but you can't do it that only like 3 people are going to get, in the background. It's got to be something that we as an audience have to be a little more familiar with.
And the whole Philip thing, taking Naomi away from like the bridge right when she was ready to kill Marco, that's another debate, because I've heard some people say that Philip totally saw that she was about to kill Marco, but I don't think he did, because I think he would have reacted a lot differently. I think he would have threw her in the cell right then and there. He wouldn't just be like, talking to her casually in the elevator and just let her roam around. I think he'd get a whole bunch of fucking people to tackle her and throw her in the cell if he saw it that she was about to kill Marco.
Yeah, I thought that he had and then pulled away, and then when he didn't say something, when he didn't grab the knife in the elevator or say something like, you try that again and we'll drop you off an airlock, or some sort of threat like, I just saved your life right now for that. That's when I realized that his statement had nothing to do with the knife, but had something to do with, again, the Rossi. When he didn't grab the knife, to me, that meant he was talking about something else.
Yeah, and they showed actually that she still had the knife. So when she attacked, what's his face, Sen with the wrench, the knife fell from her. They showed it fall from her wrist.
Yeah. That had to hurt, man. That wrench shot to the face.
He was, and I don't know when I'll have a chance to, but my one complaint does relate to the Naomi and Holden scene. But
sure, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I thought it was kind of contrived and forced, that like she just happens to be sending him this frantic message. Oh my God, don't start up the Rossi. Right as like the Rossi's like halfway starting up. I mean, what are the odds? Like he could have been still on Tycho. He could have been at the bar. He could have been in the shower. He could have already done it and already died. Like, but it just, I don't know. It just seems a little too convenient that the timing of her warning, like, cause she had no idea. She had no idea that Holden is right now sitting on the Rosinante, starting it up. Unless I missed something, like she had some sort of, I don't know, way of knowing that he was starting a Rosinante. It just seemed like a little dramatic, like that. It's like you see it like halfway started up, like he's about to start it up, and then that the message just happens to come in right in that time. I was like, okay, it just took me out of it because like that's a little too convenient.
Well, to me that's very stereotypical Hollywood fodder. I'm kind of used to it. I'm used to them doing.
But usually, I mean, they know
interrupt the countdown right before it's about to explode.
I know, but they would know that the countdown is about to be like, oh my God, I got to do it. They're counting down right now. I have to go do it now. But she had no way of knowing that the countdown was.
She knew it was going to happen soon. Though. Oh, yeah. And there was another Easter egg that I didn't notice that someone else pointed out to me, that when she was on the bridge, apparently she saw on the view screen they were watching the Rosinante.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that it was very convenient that she just happened to call him right when it was halfway down the countdown.
I totally agree.
In other tropes and other things like that, they know that it's halfway down the countdown, and that makes a lot more sense than she just happens to do it halfway down the countdown.
I mean, I really wanted. Hold on, just real quick. I can't think of any specific examples, but I'm pretty sure I've seen this trope used in this way before, where they weren't aware that it just so happened to coincidentally save them in the nick of time. But
well, anyway, I wouldn't have liked it then either, if that's
fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, Darrin.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I really want to see the alternate scene where he got that message in the shower, like 2 hours at a time. It's just like, oh, Naomi, are you all? Don't start it. It's going to die. It's going to. Okay. Bull, don't look at the Rossi. Okay, I'm gonna dry off, and then I want to see that scene now.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is pretty much exactly how it went down in the books too. I remember thinking that when I read the books, that it's kind of convenient that she managed to save it just in the nick of time. But I mean, that's fair. I definitely see where you're coming from. It just didn't bother me as much.
There was I do want to point out Sin's speech to Naomi in the hallway. I think is another great thing. Again, when we're seeing about the extremes of the Belters and how they're seeing what Marco has done and receiving. And when he's talking about, they make us thirst for water, gasp for air. How they'll never share the bounty of the new planets with us, and we can't live there anyway. I've seen it. You tried to live on. I think it was a great bit of someone who's obviously not necessarily a bad person, but's been sort of pushed to the edge to now be willing to accept extremes. Not quite the crazy that Sakai is, or or a lot of the other Belters on the ship. But again, I like that we're getting this kind of breadth of people seeing it, of like, well, is it good? Is it bad? Do they deserve it? Maybe, maybe not. It's just, I like the fact that we're getting to see that kind of reaction amongst the Belters, that again, it's not just, as the crew in the beginning had mentioned, the Belters aren't one constant throughout the world, that there are variations on how they think.
I mean, there's a lot of different factions, and they're meant to be very sort of splintered. And I do like how it does showcase that Sin at heart is a good person. It's just because he sees things through Marco's lens and his perspective, and they do have somewhat of a point that the Inners did commit atrocities against them. But of course, that has Naomi a completely side with Naomi. That doesn't justify what they're doing.
No, not at all.
Another really good point that Sin brings up in this scene, which is actually one of Marco's huge talking points in the books, but he actually hasn't mentioned in the show yet. And it was actually pretty interesting that it was finally brought up here, is that a lot of the Belters won't be able to colonize these worlds. Most of them won't survive. And so this is actually a huge talking point in the books, that one of the reasons why Marco incites this resolution is because he's worried about the Belters becoming obsolete, for the Earthers hoarding all the resources for themselves and slowly letting the Belters die off because their resources aren't as important anymore. Now they won't really have any purpose for them, and they can't colonize these other worlds like the Inners can. So I hope that comes up again, because there was actually a huge talking point in the books.
Well, and it would make Marco a hell of a lot more sympathetic, because right now he seems more of just like, the fighting revolutionary. I mean, and he does have certain levels of charm, but I think this would make him more sympathetic and understandable, as opposed to just, we're fighting for our rights and we'll beat your ass down until we get them.
I don't know if anything could make Marco more sympathetic. I think it makes Sin more sympathetic that he brought that up. But I don't know.
And then maybe that's why they did it that way.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's an excellent point. Though, I have to say, the scene between Marco and Philip in the dining hall was kind of a little sweet. It was like a father sort of trying to advise his son. Now, yeah, Marco's psychotic. Mm-hmm. But in a way, it does look like he cares for his kid. He's got a relationship, with him. He's trying to advise him the best that he can on a world, the way that he sees things. So to me, that actually made him a little more human with this, as opposed to just, I'm the villain.
I don't know, Darrin. I kind of read that scene a bit differently. For me, that was Marco manipulating Philip into doing what he wants to do. Especially the whole way, that he manipulated him during the conversation, where it's like, well, that's not your ship anymore, Naomi. It's Philip's ship. Philip, do you want to give your ship to Naomi? Like, it was definitely like playing him and setting him up.
Well, yeah, no.
I agree. Even that conversation afterwards, I felt was kind of a continuation of that, personally.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I kind of agree with you, Mark, and I still haven't forgiven him for last week, where he was just like, "Oh, you wanted your mommy."
I'm not saying he's not a dick. I'm not saying that.
But no, I kind of read it the way that you're describing, Mark, that I felt it was totally manipulation there on his part.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think he is manipulating him, but I think that there is there is something within him that is trying to be fatherly. Yeah. I don't think that he is successful. I'm not necessarily saying that anything that he is saying isn't manipulative and ultimately serving his own goals. But I do think in his way, that scene is showing that he has a relationship with Philip, and there is, he is trying to be fatherly, even if that fatherly pursuit is, like I mentioned, psychotic.
No, I definitely see your point there, and I definitely agree. I think in Marco's mind, he's the best father ever. Like, he thinks he's a great father that cares for his son, and that Naomi is the traitor who just abandoned her son and doesn't give a shit about it.
Yeah, sure. He also thinks he's a freedom fighter instead of a murderer.
Yeah. So he thinks he's the savior of the belt, saving millions of people.
He's a belter that talks very earther, is what he is. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Well, to be fair, that's how he's written in the books too. He was said to speak more like an inner, because apparently he was educated.
Okay.
So I think that might have been done on purpose. Although I mean, his Belter accent may not be too strong, and to be frank, when they have the accents be too overpowering, it kind of annoys me. But I can still sense, like, he still says and stuff like that, like the way he talks. So I can still sense some Belter in him.
Look, I'm going to keep making fun of Marcos. Don't put any logic in front of me.
Fair enough. Okay. Let's see. Alexandra says there's no way he can be sympathetic at any level. One can sympathize with the Belter's calls, but not Marco. No way.
I agree.
You agree?
Yeah, not Marco. No way.
No, I still want Drummer to shoot him in the face. Don't get me wrong. That is my goal now. That's the scene I want.
I think he can be sympathetic on a level, but to a small degree. But
I agree. The Belter's cause is what is sympathetic, and so his cause is sympathetic, but him, no.
I'll go with that. I will go with that.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and move over to good old Holden storyline, which kind of sort of intersect this one, which we already touched on briefly, with the whole being in the shower and getting a call. But so god damn it, and I said this in my review, and I got to reemphasize that I totally see where that guard is coming from who beat the shit out of some guy. Like, she kept smiling at me. I was like, I would probably feel the exact same way. In fact, when Holden was having the whole conversation with her, and he's like, oh, you know, I can't remember the bullshit she said exactly, but I was like, oh my god, Holden, smack her up some more. Fucking hell.
And I would have been like, and this is for Star Trek Discovery last season.
This is for messing with Tilly.
Tilly. All I think of when I see her.
Tilly. That's all I can think of too, honestly.
All right, but here's the question I have, and I posed this to my viewers as well, and they get different responses. Is when she, Holden was like, it's time to take the Rossi out on the hunt, and him, Holden, and Bull were going off to get the Rosnat. They powered up. She goes, wait, Holden. And so I think they're trying to imply that she was considering warning him about the explosion. And then she's like, actually, no, never mind. I'll see you when you get back. But I kind of don't think that she would ever consider warning Holden. Like, to me, I think she would be happy to let him die. Wouldn't even have a first thought of warning him. But someone suggested in the comments that perhaps like the explosion was the worst not that could cause damage to Tycho, which could kill her. So maybe she was doing it out of self-preservation. Or maybe I should warn them because I might die in this explosion. But then change her mind. It's like, nah, fuck it. I'd rather die than let these guys fuck off. So, which that I can buy a bit more. But I don't know if either one of you read this scene a bit differently.
I kind of agree with you, Mark. I don't think that she would give a shit about saving Holden, and I don't know. I had gotten the impression that she would gladly just die, even if, and that seems like that's not necessarily 100% thing that would happen. That it would affect Tycho Station or her if the Rosinante blew up. I don't know. I kind of read it the way that you talked about in your review too, with that. I think there's no way she would give a fuck about Holden. So that's what I thought.
I oddly agree and disagree with you. But obviously I like to choose odd positions. I think all of that was happening. I rewatched it again just before we jumped onto here, and I really wanted to see the actress's face who was performing it, because I think one of the things throughout the discussion, I think you get moments of defiance and fear and almost capitulation and then resistance. I think you see it a lot in her face. I think it's actually a brilliant small little performance right there of back and forth. I think she might have been like reacting to like, is this going to be my last chance to save myself? Not necessarily warn them about the Rossi, I think, but I think it was just that reactive, like, this is all going to go down. You're going to end. Nobody's going to come after you. Oh, we've got to go. And I think she had a reactive, like, wait. And then, thinking about it was like, no, I'll see you when you get back. Because you're not going to come back. So, I mean, I think there was a lot of those levels jumping throughout that scene. So while I don't think she called him out intentionally, considering, like, I'm going to tell him, I do think that it was a reactive, like, this might be my last chance to change my fate. Nah, from a pure reactive standpoint, not necessarily one of thinking, almost like an animalistic survival response.
I don't know. To me, it's just the way that the episode was structured, the way Holden said, oh, let's start up the Rosinante, and like immediately after she's like, wait. To me, that had me feeling that the wait was in direct response to he's about to start up the Rosinante and that's going to kill him.
Yeah. Well, again, it could be, but that's what I'm saying is I think that was her animal reaction of like, this is my last chance.
Because
it wasn't like,
yeah,
it wasn't like, oh, should I warn him? It was like, oh, this is my last chance. What do I want to do? Nah, I want to tell him to F off.
Yeah.
You know, I almost felt that it was that, but it was also, like I said, because I think there was a little back and forth going on emotionally within her. At least that's how I saw the scene rolling out. Even though, yeah, she would gladly die for the cause.
Yeah. I actually referenced what she said at the start of my video. The whole thing about you in your Lotus. You don't belong out here. Fred Johnson was just a tourist. I'm like, fuck off. Someone hit her again. We're going to remind you, you don't belong out here again. And because we were talking about, I'm sorry, actually, I don't know if this disagrees with anyone. I'm ever going to have strong disagreement, but I'm sorry, but I think Marco is more sympathetic than Sakai. I have no sympathy for Sakai. Fuck this character. I totally do not see her point of view at all.
Oh, I'm not being sympathetic. I think she's crazy. I wanted to point out the top. I guess you can't see it. My top note is you can't blame the guard for punching her.
Yeah. But I also have to point out in the chat, we're joined by the MCRN. I guess it's an official spokesperson from the MCRN saying that the corruption will be snuffed out of our ranks and our ops will take care of Marco. Well, I don't know, MCRN. I don't know if I trust your ability at this stage because you let so many of your traitors slip through your ranks. And plus, I will never forgive you because you need to stop calling the Rocinante the fucking Tachi. Okay? Get over it. It's not the Tachi. It's the Rocinante. The Rocinante. Anyway.
Embrace the ship that has saved the system in 20 years, man. Just go with it.
I know, Mars. They saved you several times.
Take that win.
Anyway, Alyssa, did you have any other thoughts on the Holden storyline?
No, not really. I just mainly wanted to make sure that I got in my thing about Naomi and the trying to save him at the last second, just when he happens to be counting down. But other than that, no, I don't have any other thoughts to add.
Yeah, it was a quick scene. It was really a quick. I mean, almost. It's funny you compared it with Drummer in the beginning because it was only, I think, slightly longer than Drummer's scene. Really, in the episode, there's not much that happened outside of the interrogation with Sakai. Though I did like his brief little summary to Naomi in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. That was nice.
Was a cool shot of just like, this is what has happened. If you have.
And I really like Stephen Strait as an actor. Like, he's really impressed me. I think he really improved over the seasons as well. Like, I like the way he played his reaction to Naomi's message because he's got to process simultaneously that he's about to be destroyed unless he acts, but at the same time, realizing that his lover is being held captive by Marco. And I think his reaction to that was actually quite beautiful. It sort of captured that sort of conflict on both things.
I've gotten to be a big fan of Stephen Strait and his work in this. So I guess afterwards he'll be looking for other work and we can see him in other things.
Well, I mean, he's bound to end up in the MCU eventually, since everyone else, the entire universe, ends up in the MCU eventually.
Well, begin your casting choices now.
This is a discussion we can have for another time, but everyone involved with the show, Ty Frank, Noreen Shankar, pretty much anyone and everyone involved with the show, when they always talk about, season 6 will be the end, they always like, let's, I don't know, there's more stuff we can do. They keep hinting so heavily that they're going to do more after season 6. So I'm convinced that they will, whether that be TV, movies, or another spin-off series, but I think something's coming. Like, I think Alcon put out an official statement saying, there's plenty more we can do with this IP. Yeah. So I'm personally hoping for movies that cover the last 3 books, but we'll see.
I think that's a real possibility. But that still leaves Stephen Strait time to join the MCU.
Fair enough.
Oh
fair
yeah,
enough.
definitely. Because isn't there some actors in the MCU that do like several franchises simultaneously? Like I'm pretty sure there are.
Oh, that's going to be the new thing. It's all going to be IPs and franchises now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But anyway, there was one more thing I wanted.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, there was one more thing.
No, it's gonna be a tangent. Go.
Okay, so I'm good.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right, so there's one more thing I want to mention about the storyline is when Bull said, when, Holden's like, oh, where's my pilot? And Bull's like, you're looking at him. My first thought was, well, who the fuck's going to run Tycho? Like, why are you going off with Holden? Shouldn't you stay on Tycho to run Tycho? Like, as I mentioned in the books, he took over Drummer's storyline. In the books, he stayed on Tycho to run Tycho. Like, why, what the fuck is he doing? Why is he going off with Holden? That's and it seems like I answered my own question. The answer is obviously because he's an established character and they can't just have all these non-con character extras with Holden. They need to have another speaking character there. So that's why
There's Bob, the pilot. Good luck, Bob. Why do you have a red shirt on, Bob? I told you not to wear those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was MCRN says we have a black market signing bonus to enlist. Oh, okay. All right.
And now, how are we really supposed to trust you now? Now you're just saying that you're in it.
Anyway, let's go ahead and I think it's just the Bobby stuff left, right? The Bobby Draper and Alex. Speaking of the MCRN, we see them following the ships, and they're like, "Oh, only the Augustus is leaving. The other ships are staying behind. Why are they staying behind?" They're like, "Oh yeah, because they're actually selling these ships to Marco. This is what the trade-off is." And this is, to me, this wasn't news because I thought they mentioned in the previous episode that Marco, because he's on a Martian ship, and I thought he mentioned in that episode that he had other Martian ships. But I was actually hoping for more revelations as far as this thing goes. But there's definitely there's definitely a significant portion of the Martian military that is somehow in bed with Marco, involved with this whole sort of thing. In fact, that's when Bobby and Alex were chasing them, when they found on the news all these attacks, they're like, this is probably related to what we're investigating. So that was interesting. And of course, it ended on a huge cliffhanger where they were spotted and they had to dump their fusion core in order to stop the missile. Now, I talked before about the after show that Ty Frank does, and he actually clarified something for me, which I wasn't actually sure of, is that because I thought that they dumped their whole engine and had that missile destroy their engine, but apparently that's not the case. They still have their engine. There was just the engine starts up a fusion ball that is the reactor that runs the ship, and they threw that ball at the missile and it exploded the ball, but they still have their engine, but it's completely cold now, and it would take them a really long time to create more fusion.
Okay, I didn't get that either. That's good to know.
I totally didn't get that. I thought that they had dumped the engine out as well, but that does make sense. Didn't one of the earlier seasons, weren't they trying to start up another engine that had a cold engine, and and they were specifically mentioned about how long that it was going to take? I don't think this is a Star Trek episode. Yeah,
season 4, when the protomolecule thingy shut down the reactors. And they talked about how it would take a really long time to start it up again. So yeah, it's the same situation here. So they still have their engines. It's going to take them a really long time to get it going again.
Okay. Well, and I think they have to. I mean, while we know that the Free Navy has Martian ships, nobody else knows. So I think this is the way that obviously Officer All and the rest of the world can find out why that there was Martian ships in with that. So that's probably why they did this. But I agree. The tension only came from once they got caught. Everything else was just Alex going, what? And Bobby going, this is what we need to do. They're all traitors. Track them down. All business. Though we did find out that or at least they clarified that the Martian Parliament was a bombing and not an asteroid hit, which is what I was wondering if it was last week.
I thought they made that clear in the previous episode.
Yeah, they did. They said they called it the bombing in the previous
episode. Okay. Well, I guess I thought of it because of the asteroid hitting. That was like, wow, man, they're attacking Mars and Earth with these rocks. But that would have been incredible aim.
Yeah, there was a bombing there, and I'm wondering if are we ever gonna get more on that, or just that's all it's gonna be is this line that there was a bombing.
I'm sure it will come up again. I'm sure it'll be relevant, even if we don't get more about it specifically. The fact that it happened is going to really affect Mars and Mars going forward. I just also, it's a bit of a digression, but wanted to point out in the chat that Alexandra brought up that she was worried that they would butcher season 6 by trying to throw in the last 3 books in the same season and do a Game of Thrones rush type job, rush to the end. But the showrunners and the authors themselves confirmed that they definitely won't do that. Like Ty Frank specifically said, season 6 will end where book 6 ends. Like they may hint at some other things, but they will end at the same place, so they're not going to do a Game of Thrones rush. Thank God.
Well, good. That is good. Good to know.
Yeah, the 6th season of the show is not going to include material from books 7, 8, and 9. Yep, as I said specifically. But anyway, as far as the one thing I did enjoy about the scene is that because in season 3 last time we saw the Razorback. I'm sorry, I'm still going to call it the Razorback, not the
Screaming Firehawk.
The last time we saw the Razorback in action, they couldn't go full speed because Sorella was on board and she was too old and fragile when struck out. But this time we had Alex and Bobby, who were both well trained in high G, so we got to see it go at its full potential. But watching the ship go really fast in space isn't really that isn't all that visually stunning, but it was cool. They tried to do some cinematography trickery and dodging the missiles and whatnot. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was effective, and so, especially seeing like Bobby, even though we know how well Bobby's trained for extreme Gs, that her face was flattened and there was blood coming out of her nose. I think that really hit home that they were going that full 5 Gs. Pretty sure that they were.
No, I love that scene. And I got to say, the shot when they first tried to, I'm going to shake target lock. And then we get that nice shot from the bow of the ship where it starts shifting left and right or whichever. It's just moving around and changing directions. Great shot. Very disorienting. But I love just having the little navigational thrusters moving through in the starfield, shifting in the back as it's trying to turn. It was a cool shot choice, personally.
Cool. Alyssa, did you have any thoughts on these scenes overall? It was effective.
Well, I think we need to see more of the storyline now. Like the last 2 episodes, they've kind of been hardly in it. And I assume after, that cliffhanger where they're just kind of floating in space that we should get more of them in the next episode. I said when I saw you guys a couple weeks ago that through the first 3 episodes, it was my least favorite storyline, but that was when they were on Mars and Bobby was being a bitch for no reason. They were doing a lot of cliche things, but now that they've moved beyond that, I am really interested, especially with where they left it. I'm really interested in where they're going next. So I hope now that so they've been out, or they've been hardly in it the last 2 episodes. Sorella sat out this episode, so I would assume we're gonna. Which, by the way, where do you watch a trailer for the next episode? It doesn't come on Amazon Prime at the end, and I couldn't.
Do they have them?
I don't know. So they don't exist?
Yeah, I don't think they exist. Yeah.
Okay, well, because I was going to say, if there's a trailer for the next episode, I haven't seen it, so I don't know what they're going to focus on in the next episode. But I assume it's going to be Bobby and Alex floating in space and then trying to contact Avasarala, and will contact Avasarala will be a big part of it. And that's what I hope. I'd like to see more of this storyline. I feel like 2 episodes in a row, I think you described it well. What was it, you or Darrin, Mark, who were describing how Alex and Bobby were in this episode? They really didn't do much.
Yeah, like the past couple episodes, they've just been sitting in the Razorback watching the news.
Yeah.
They actually filmed 3 episodes in one afternoon. Just had them in the chair, so we're just like, hey, now touch the invisible screen, squeeze face, and okay, we're done.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story about a rat. And
that's right. There you go. Look pensive.
We'll wrap it up. Yeah. So it's time to move on with this storyline. And it looks like that's where they've left it at the end of this episode. So, I'm looking forward to seeing where they go next.
And it's funny you mentioned that the previews, I hadn't even really thought about it. I guess I'm starting to get used to it with Mandalorian. They never show any of the previews too. And I'm wondering if that's going to be like kind of a new thing. Because to be honest, I actually like not knowing what I'm going to be going into. Sometimes I see the previews and I'm like, oh, now I kind of get where you're going. They take some of the excitement sometimes.
I feel like most previews are pretty good at not spoiling too much, at least for me personally. Like, I feel like I just like them to see what storylines they're going to focus on. Like, I want to know, are they going to focus more on Bobby and Alex next week? That's all I really want to know. Like,
I think it's a more interesting dynamic not having a trailer. It's definitely, I don't know if I'd say it's better or worse. It's different. So I think that's very interesting. And also, like, unless I missed something, which I'm pretty sure I didn't, they only really released one trailer for season 5. Like, season 4 had like 3 different trailers. So
I thought there were at least 2.
I thought the second one was just a shortened version of the first one.
Oh,
unless I missed one. Maybe I missed one.
I don't know.
I don't know. I rewatched that one trailer just like 20 times, so I don't.
Yeah. I watched seen it. Rewatch it like maybe 100 times in a row. The first game out was just an hour straight sitting replay on it. But anyway, so yeah, I think that will wrap her up. That will do her for this discussion. So we can all go out and celebrate the new year. So any sort of concluding final thoughts on on this episode, or what you expect to see in the next episode, or anything like that?
Not so much. One thing I did want to mention is they keep changing the opening sequence. If you guys have been paying attention,
yes,
almost every episode there is something new. We, of course, on this one have the asteroids hitting the Earth, our 3 hits there, and we've been watching Mars now slowly depopulate as the lights are all cutting off. And
I didn't
notice
like that one. No.
Yeah, when they show the valley, get the shot of all the lights on the hillside, and they all start going out. So, I mean, it's kind of anyway, it's one of the things I really like about the show is how they've been playing with that opening, how every episode something shifts.
That's pretty cool. I honestly like when the opening theme is on, like, okay, when I get my glass of water, I got to get ready to work, make sure I'm all set for the show. So I'm not paying as much attention to the screen. I'm also humming along. I love that song.
Yeah.
So I haven't been paying attention to the screen enough to notice that, but that's very interesting. I'll start paying attention.
Yeah, it's one of those most opening titles I skip. Game of Thrones, I never did.
Yeah,
always love that. It just rouses you ready for it. The Expanse is another one. There's a handful of them that I like watching the beginning. It gets me set up. And yeah, there's one shot where they've got the Earth spinning, and then suddenly you see the of an asteroid coming right towards it, and then a big explosion. I was like, oh, they've got something different. So yeah, they have fun with it, and I really appreciate that.
I think I want to say previous seasons didn't change it for the entire season. Like, they kept it the same the entire. I think this is the first time they're like changing it per.
No, in 4 they would change. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was 4. They were changing how many ships were heading towards the ring. You would see
really?
The number of ships on the ring slowly start increasing as the season went on. It was very subtle changes, but I think they started playing with it then, and now they're really like kind of really evolving the opening with each episode.
I did not notice that.
Yeah. Well, and they had also changed Mars. They had gotten rid of the one moon that blew up. So you see that, and it just goes from a moon to just like
was that in the middle of season 2? Or I thought that was between season 2 and 3. They did that.
That might have been one of that might have been. Yeah. I just again, I like watching how it shifts constantly.
I'm trying to think of what there was another show that did something like that when I can't think of what.
Other than Game of Thrones.
I guess Game of Thrones would change the location.
Yeah, change the location depending on.
I thought there was something else, but maybe I'm just thinking of Game of Thrones. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, Chet, that's your job before the next show. So tell us what other shows have changed their opening sequences.
You know what? I think Westworld has too.
Oh yeah.
They did do something.
Yeah.
I think they will make little changes in those.
I didn't know if that was just in between seasons or if they did it within seasons.
Yeah, I don't know.
The last, I think they did do like you would have one or two changes, not a lot, but I think there were. Oh,
Alexandra said Discovery, but I think that's definitely in between seasons. I don't think they do it per episode, but I think they changed it. I want to say season 1 and 2 were the same. They just changed it for season 3. I don't know.
They might have changed it for season 2 also, but I think it's definitely in between seasons. I didn't think it's weak. But that's cool. That seems to be like a thing now that shows are doing, which is really, really cool to play with the opening credits like that.
Well, hey, it keeps us from skipping them, and as long as they don't put horrible music in the beginning, I'll listen to it.
Yeah, and Alexandra said Westworld only between seasons.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I thought they might have changed it throughout the season last year, but
so you don't like horrible music in your intro?
God. Have you guys seen Britannia? Oh, well, season 2 sucks. But yeah, they got some opening songs are just like, what? Who chose this?
Yeah, so you don't think it's been a long road getting from there?
Oh, good. You're just hurting us now, man.
I still maintain it is the worst opening theme in history. It's the worst thing the Star Trek franchise has ever done, and so I like to make fun of it.
Yeah, sure. I 100% agree with you on both accounts. It is the single most worst thing that Star Trek franchise has ever done. Not just theme songs, but the single worst thing.
Yeah, anything that franchise has ever done, having Crusher fuck his space ghost, having Quark get a sex change, it's the worst thing that the Star Trek franchise.
And the fact that it's the worst theme song of all time on any show. I agree with that as well.
If you're gonna go all the way, right? Make a big mistake.
And I've had so many people on my channel defend that theme song, and I gotta say, every time I read a comment like that, it hurts my soul. And I have that less faith in humanity every time I get a comment.
Yeah. I don't know if it's cool of me to spoil Lord X, but I'll just say my favorite line of that entire season was at the end where they played off of the Enterprise theme song.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were totally mocking it. It was really been a long road. Anyway, that's enough.
Now we're saying goodbye to 2020, folks. Just pain. Oh yeah, thank you, MCRN.
Anyway, okay, that's enough trashing on the Enterprise theme song. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. I guess we'll start with you, Alyssa, if you want to give a shout out to, I guess, this or whatever you're up to.
Yeah, I'm on hiatus from doing any kind of videos of any sort right now. So yeah, I got this. I'm here every other week. And in my off weeks, I try to join in the chat and make comments in the chat and laugh along with you guys about how Don is doesn't hold back from his. So yeah, I'll be here in 2 weeks then. For the next.
Also, we'll have to arrange a Discovery discussion because that's ending soon too.
Yes, we will. That's right. You and I are going to do a Discovery discussion as well. So that's all I got going on. I will see you guys on this channel right here in a couple weeks. So
cool. And Darrin, do you want to give a shout out to where people can find you and what you're up to?
Certainly. Also, I must admit that in Star Trek Online, my ship is an NX class. So I have to admit that to everyone there. Yeah, you can find me over on D's Reviews. I'm on a little break right now. We'll be starting up a big season 1 review of Agent Carter next month. We were going to do it on the 12th. Looks like it's probably going to be pushed a little bit. So pay attention to my channel and my Twitter feed at Darrin Jakes for updates of when we're going to have that. And then, of course, we'll be continuing on season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. starting in February. Otherwise, you're just going to catch me here. I'm like, I don't have anything else going on. Otherwise, yeah, you can catch me right here for the rest of the Expanse, here with Mark, and bi-weekly with Alyssa, and the other weeks with Dawn. It's very exciting. Can't wait for the rest of the season. I mean, I'm expecting great stuff, but I also don't want it to end. And I know we're already halfway through, so it's like joy and sadness at the same time. But let's be honest, 2020 is about to be gone in a couple of hours. For some of you, it's already out of here. So let's get this party started. Happy New Year, everyone. Please stay safe and party responsibly at home in front of YouTube with all of us.
It wasn't, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but was there any plans to cover WandaVision perhaps on your channel, Darrin?
I do want to do it. Unfortunately, I had a recent family tragedy. I have to fly back east in the middle of this pandemic. I have to fly across country to Connecticut for a week, which will be right when WandaVision is premiering. So I may end up doing maybe a mid-season and an end of season. I may not end up doing a weekly bit for that, but I will want to talk about it because it looks awesome, and I can't wait to see what kind of mind-bendy stuff they do.
Yeah, I will just throw this out there. If either of you are going to do a discussion on WandaVision, I will be happy to be a part of that as well. I would love to talk about that show. It looks amazing.
Excellent. Cool, yeah. Excellent. You will be getting an email from me then.
That and What If are probably the 2 Marvel shows I'm looking forward to the most. Like the whole Winter Soldier thing.
The Winter Soldier, the latest trailer of Winter Soldier did not, of Falcon and Winter Soldier did not excite me. But hopefully it'll be better than what it looked like in the trailer. But
anyway, if you're finding me for the first time, my name's Mark. My channel's Enchantment of Eternity. I do these weekly live discussions on The Expanse, as well as my own personal review of The Expanse, as well as all sorts of other videos on The Expanse, which I try to sort of cover year-round because I love this show so much. That. Anyway.
Sorry, I'm kidding. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. No,
I'll mute my microphone now.
Just wanted to make sure my house wasn't about to explode, so that's all good. Anyway, so yes, I also cover other stuff on my channel, like Star Trek we're alluding to, where I talk about my favorite theme song. The best Star Trek show. No, just kidding. Cover all sorts of Star Trek shows, as well as at the moment I'm covering Breaking Bad once a month, doing season by season. The same thing with The Outer Limits, the 90s versions. Talk about a great theme song. Like when they had the skip intro option for that, I'm like, what are you fucking nuts? I'm not going to skip the intro. Intro is the best part of the whole show. You're now about to enter the outer limits. Anyway, we control your TV. Anyway. Anyway, so I cover that show as well, and all sorts of other wacky things on my channel. So be sure to check me out for that. And thanks you so much for everyone. Thanks for Alyssa, Darrin for joining me. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Cardinal Doomsday, Alexandra, MCRN. Keep up the good fight and acknowledge the Rosnate. Stop calling it the Tachi. Everyone else joining. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next
Happy
time.
New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year. Yes.
Happy